if I'd done this on my own, chances are I would have quit, because it's like, this isn't the progress that I was after. I'm too slow. I don't know how to do this. This is frustrating. I don't want to have to pay money. And so now, for me, community is everything now. Like, I've got people that are helping me, and in turn I'm helping them. And any kind of negative thought that comes to my head, either in the mornings or at nights, getting back to the original topic, it's something I'm now super happy to workshop with people.
G'day, Dex. How you
Hey
doing?
Shane, how's it going?
Yeah, good, man. Good. I thought I'd like to lead today off with a particular training I was doing the other day, and it got me thinking. And what the training was about is the thought that we would like to eradicate, and this is while helping another human being, what kind of thought we would like to eradicate out of human existence while we're on the planet.
Okay.
Now, this was obviously, put towards coaches for people helping other people. But it also got me thinking, what kind of thoughts do we predominantly walk around with every day? Like, sometimes we may get up in the morning and we're not feeling that great. And sometimes that might be the whole energy that we carry along for the whole day. And we've got a predominant thought that kind of, displays the way we carry ourselves through that day. And if we became a bit more aware of what that was, perhaps we could change it,
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I guess, me, myself, we were talking about this before, throughout the day, this morning was very, very sunny and bright. And every time it's sunny, I jump out of bed and go, okay, what are we going to do today? I got up, took the dog for a walk and everything, enjoyed our time. Came back, I did some training, and a little bit later on, I found that, the mood started to change. And I'm in the country, and it's all of a sudden turned quite dark. And normally I don't get too influenced by the light and the dark, but I have noticed as of late that kind of thing has been happening. And this seems to be apparently a common thing, what they call a sundowner syndrome or something like that, something similar to that. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. But I hadn't really noticed it until I had thought about this process that I was telling you about. And so I was thinking about, oh, what kind of energy are you carrying at the moment? What are you thinking? That kind of thing. So it was interesting. But as soon as I realized that I was able to kind of change it, because I kind of put some light onto it, and I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? But anyway, that's what I'd been thinking about. Yeah.
That's an interesting one. For the longest time, I have an alarm on my phone that just gets constantly repeated. It used to be every 30 minutes. Now I think I've set it to every hour, and it basically just asks me to have awareness and to be present. And occasionally the message will change depending on what it is that I think I need to draw awareness to. Because for me personally, my day, I get up, and then it's like the Tasmanian devil of the cartoons. it's like that. It's like that for like the whole day, and then towards the end of, say, a working hour day, it's back to normal. So what I find is some days I'm productive and other days I'm not. But both of those days could still feel the same because everything is just all over the shop. And so the reminder for me is to do that, is to basically cast a light on what it is I'm thinking at that moment, because it could be something that I'm wasting time on. I could be watching a YouTube video, or I could be researching something that I shouldn't be because I'm either bored or I just don't know what to work on. And so having having that reminder helps me to put a highlight on how I'm feeling at that point. And the types of thoughts that I carry with me in the morning that seem to highlight that, a lot of it focuses um, on discipline and to try and stay on task. There's also thoughts on clarity for me that, there's just so many things on trying to dedicate the right or enough time to the right things. I find really difficult, and a lot of the times the negative thoughts that I might have is that in the morning is that here's another day of me potentially wasting my time or wasting the day because I have so many things to do that it becomes almost debilitating in a way.
Mm.
And so I think to myself, I've got 12 hours or so to get as much get as much stuff done as I can. And half of the time I'm just deciding what to do. Do I work on this first? Do I work on that? I've read lots of books on productivity, and people say things like, you should do the hardest things first.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. So a lot of my own negative self-talk revolves around those sorts of things. I'm not disciplined enough. I don't have enough time. But having that reminder sort of brings it to light and say, you know what? Sure. This is a momentary lapse of concentration. Let's just bring yourself back to what it is that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I used to have it every half an hour was because, as with all things on our phone, people think that having a notification on your phone is a guarantee that you'll look at it. For me, more often than not, if something comes up on my phone, I'll look at it, and even though I might register it, I might just ignore it. I don't know if that's for everyone, but for me, I have an alert. It's every 30 minutes, and I might acknowledge 3 or 4 of those in a row, but not action anything because I'm expecting it. So I'm almost tricking myself in a way to go, it might say, stay focused. And I look at it, and then I look at it, and I just go back to what I'm doing. So it needs to be something that's constant, So some of those negative thoughts that I carry throughout the day are things about discipline and focus, and especially at our age, it's like I really want to make that difference. And I'm not saying this is like a last hurrah thing, but I want to really make that impact for the better half of my life, so to speak. So yeah, it's an interesting way to think about things based on what you're saying.
Yeah. That it's a good point. I probably spent the first half of my life. You mentioned that thing of there was a few things that you mentioned, but they all kind of come to the point of not that feeling of not being good enough. When you doubt yourself, you question yourself, all of that sort of thing. I spent probably half of my life doing that, not the first half even, but just a portion which I kind of I wouldn't change because I received a hell of a lot of growth in that time. But you kind of go, I just wish it wasn't as long, But I did also find, I did carry that for a long time, not good enough. That still happens in many things that are new to me as well, or things that I've tried to do for a long time and I just haven't been able to kind of crack through to the not the next level, but move on to it. And I think the important thing though is how do we turn that around, And I've always found if I've done that for way too long, I really need to put a process in place to kind of change it, where, like I was saying this morning, once you notice it, you really have to catch yourself out and kind of go, okay, how do I turn that around? Because it's pattern that just keeps repeating. I find that, if I look at it, geez, I've been doing that for a couple of months now, what's going to change and how's it going to change? And so if I catch it and, you mentioned the app. I used to use an alarm on my phone too, similar thing. When I was at work, place I really didn't want to be at the time, but I used to have these affirmations, and I was lucky enough that I was in a position where I could have my headphones in and work. And so I'd be listening to either these affirmations or some self-development courses that were going on, which was great. But I would set my alarm every hour as a reminder of whatever that thing was that I was going through at the time. So regardless of how I felt at the time, it reminded me either I was good enough or, I can do this, or whatever the language was at the time. And it was just a reminder. And even prior to that, when I was doing my NLP training, we did a process of anchoring, and it's just where you get yourself into a space where you're feeling good about yourself, you're thinking positive, and you're feeling really good at that time. And we put a rubber band around our wrist, and it's the same thing. You just flick the rubber band anytime you get into kind of a negative space. You flick the rubber band where it brings you back into that same feeling and same space that you were with when you anchored that, positive, and it's positive reinforcement. So those little things, I think, that thing you said with the alarm or your apps is a brilliant thing to do. But you have to set it up properly, where you have to do the work beforehand and kind of go, okay, what do I want to think when that thing goes off, or what's the reminder at that time, and it helps. All these little things help.
Yeah, it does. And it's a thing as well where you don't realize that you're doing it till after the fact. There has to be a certain level of self-discovery where, it could be months, it could be years of trying to achieve something and not getting the results. And then you sort of have to look in it and go, like, why am I working so hard and achieving so little? Or, I thought this would be easier, or I thought this would be fun. And it's not until you actually have to sit down and go, well, what's the problem here? Is it because this is too hard, or I don't have enough skills, or this isn't a passion of mine, or am I doing this wrong? And once you get to certain answers, that's when you need to have that rubber band. You need to have those alerts to kind of course correct.
Yeah.
But a lot of that all starts, you're talking before about the thoughts that you carry. That those don't come about until you actually sit down with yourself and go, like, why am I feeling this way? Because most people don't. I think we've mentioned this a bunch of times. Most people just wake up, and they wake up angry, or they wake up sad, or they wake up and feel lost. And sometimes they do go down that path of self-discovery. Sometimes it's just a thought, because it might be, the 20th time in a month that they've woken up and they're not feeling so crash hot. But it's not until you get to that point of going, I'm sick of doing this, and all right, I'm going to find out why.
Yeah.
And based off that, then you can get to those parts of how do I fix this? How do I remind myself? How do I then turn that thought around? But I believe that's kind of the start of everything. It's to go inner, but that also involves you yourself having to recognize that there's a problem. Because some people think that waking up every morning and being tired and sort of angry is just normal. And they might just think that's life, because, we're not meant to wake up at 6 o'clock. Like, I get up at 4, and I'm fine. But having said that, I go to bed at like 9 o'clock, so there has to be a certain level of, I think it's frustration, or a feeling of life not being the way that people want. And I'm not saying it has to be a total disgust of their life, but it's just, what, I thought life would be a little bit easier. I thought that at this age I would be this, or I would do that. And that might be the trigger to go, okay, well, if it's that way, why isn't it like that? And ask yourself some questions, or maybe talk to other people. I think that's probably one of the first things that can help, because even if you go and try and do personal development yourself, even that in itself can be a bit difficult. But if you start to talk to other people about it and go, you know what, this morning I woke up and I was pretty angry, but I actually asked myself about this, and I kind of have some ideas. Like, what about you? Do you get up angry all the time? And I'd be no, I get up early and I love it because I do these sorts of things. And there's that starts the discussion of personal development, self help. Maybe try this, maybe try that. I'm part of a group now as well where we do have some pretty great tech, and people are starting to track their sleep and, what did I eat the night before? And okay, well, like it says I'm fairly stressed, that I go to bed stressed thinking about something, and, using the tech, they can start to think about their life in different ways to see if that's actually contributing to how they're sleeping, how they're waking up, how they're acting during the day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Those thoughts that you talk about, I think it has to be, it has to start with a lot of self-development, a lot of looking inner. But at the same time, maybe just comparing notes with friends, just having apart from talking about golf or sports or cars, just talk about life. We're 40, 50 years old. I'm waking up and I'm a little bit more tired. And then, somebody might say, yeah, I'm okay. I had that 6 months ago and this is what I did.
Yeah.
So having those discussions help.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's that dissatisfaction sort of thing. I know that's what it was for me. I would get up. I thought you were talking about me, actually, where you wake up angry and tired all the time. And that was definitely for me. It was kind of like, oh my God, do I have to do this again? And it was kind of dragging myself out of the bed. And I thought, I've done this for far too many years. Do I still have to keep doing it? Does everyone live like this? And the truth was, some other people did. So other people I spoke to at work, they were miserable as well. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to be one of them anymore. And so I think, you have to. If you've got that dissatisfaction, why am I finding it hard to say that word? Dissatisfaction. If you've got that, that's a real clue that, you don't want to stay there. You don't want to start your days off like that, and, catch those thoughts that you're having in the morning, because they're real things, they're telling you how you really feel. And, what you were saying about the tracking that people are doing, it's brilliant, because here's why: most people aren't aware of the things that they do, the things that they say, and sometimes how we act, right? Because it becomes a habit, and we're just a bunch of habits. And when we've done that for way too long, that just becomes our life. But with the things like trackers and things like that, it kind of forces you to have more awareness without you actually having to think about the awareness. Maybe the tracker will get you to put the information in, and it'll give you a readout. After a week or after a month, you can go, oh, that's not going very well, or I'm on track, tracking upwards, or whatever it is. All these tools that we can grab hold of to kind of give us a much better life than what we're kind of settling for at the time is really the reason for doing those things. But we do have to kind of, like I said, if you're dissatisfied, you have to really take note of that and go, I don't want to do this anymore. 20 years is too long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, giving it a bit more thought, I think what has really helped me and a number of other people in groups that I'm a part of, and this is an extension to the trackers, is friendship, is community. It is sort of the comparison, and you're not comparing each other in terms of I'm better than you, or, I do things faster or longer, or I have better sleep. But it's good to have healthy discussion on it, and I think that really helps because, if you do any sort of self-discovery, personal development, you don't really have a yardstick, right? Because you're only just comparing it to yourself. And you think to yourself, you know what, I'm getting like 3 hours of sleep a night. Like, is that enough? I don't know. Like, do I Google things and figure it out? And you'll get like wildly different answers. But if you have friends or people that you can discuss these sorts of things with, like, one, the answers are a little bit more immediate. Two, you're going to get, wide ranges of answers and of experiences. And on top of that, you're able to share certain things that have worked. Times of the times of the night that you go to sleep, how much deep sleep you're getting. And I know we're talking about sleep specifically here, but we're talking about everything else within life that you can just plug into that. It could be exercise, it could be happiness, it could be having issues with your daughter or your son or your brother or sister. But having a community or a group of friends that you can have around you that you can ask these sorts of questions to, especially when it comes from a self-development point of view, helps a lot because, a lot can be said about people and self-discovery and personal development when they keep it to themselves. Because I think, especially from a guy point of view, it's not really a guy thing to try and work on themselves and let other people know. Like, we'll do it maybe on our own and do our own research and listen to podcasts and try things out. But it's not really a thing where we go, I'm going to talk to Shane because, I'm having problems waking up in the morning or going to bed, or I'm having problems with my wife. We seem to be fighting a lot. Like, it's not really a thing that generally guys do, so we could spend a lot of time doing personal development and self-help on our own, only to find that if we actually reached out to some people and said, hey, this is what I want to do. Do you have any experience, or can you help me, or can I just bounce some ideas off you? You find that, you'll probably get the results that you want like a lot quicker. A lot quicker. And, we spoke about this really, really briefly just before we started recording. In Australia, it was Are You OK Day yesterday. It's a focus on mental health, suicide awareness, and all of that sort of stuff. And from a guy's point of view, we don't talk enough, and it's funny how they talk about Are You OK Day, where it should be like that every day.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is it's almost to a point where there's a default answer there for most people. And I was listening to an interesting podcast. Funnily enough, it was just today, and it's funny how it all just sort of wound up being quite related. The podcast was, I'll just bring it up here. Okay, so the podcast is, getting old, my eyesight just going. The podcast is Stuff You Should Know, and the actual podcast episode is You're So Good at Conversation. And it was generally about conversation. And there are so many nuances around conversation and having talks and talking to people. I'm going to have to give it another listen because I found it absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
And when people ask you, are you okay? There is an almost accepted default answer of, yeah, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when that gets disrupted and you say, not really, then everything changes. And so asking the question is half the battle. It's the other person actually willing to say no, and maybe I might need a bit of help. Now, asking the question itself is good, but I don't know how many times, especially a guy would actually say, no, I need a bit of help. I don't know how many times I would say that. I'd like to think that it's a little bit more commonplace now. I don't know. I like to, I'd like to ask my friends just how they're doing generally. And sometimes they'll say, yeah, I'm pretty good. And then 5 minutes later of just proper conversations, I'll say, well, you know what? Not really. It's like, well, I just asked you 5 minutes ago and you said you were fine. You know,
better late than never, I
I
guess.
know. So, you know, this sort of stuff, to me, it really highlights the need to have people around you, people that you can talk to, some accountability, some other people that are there that you are comfortable in actually talking to about this sort of stuff, about, you know, some of your perceived faults, some of things that you might not be happy with your life, and just to see how it feels explaining it to a person. Because, you know, I personally, I find it easier to talk about my own faults to myself. Like, you know, it is what it is. I talk to myself a lot anyway. So if I say, hey, you know what, I should be doing this, you're wasting your time. Like, I could have done X, Y, Z in the time that I've been watching YouTube or listening to music. And it's quite easy for me to beat myself down.
Yeah.
But then me trying to explain those problems to somebody else, it triggers me in a way.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's like, oh, okay. So sure, I'm admitting to myself that I'm not the most productive today and that I could have done more. But if I say that to somebody else, then I'm like going, oh, okay, now he knows I'm not productive now. You know, I better improve myself.
Yeah. Look, I must admit, you know, when I was going through my struggles, I was a very closed book. I didn't want anyone to know anything, even my family, you know, closest to me. I didn't want anyone to know anything, and that really didn't help myself or my you know, immediate family, my wife and kids, because there was really nowhere to go to from there. Like, I could talk to my wife about things, but she could only help me so far. And my friends certainly could have. I'm sure they were going through their own things, and but I never. I was always one to kind of go, no, I'm going to sort it out myself. You know, the classic male thing. You know, I'll keep it to myself and suffer in silence. But I think, you know, nowadays on the other side, I'm quite open about where I was, and for a long time I didn't want to kind of even admit that I'd gone through depression and all of that sort of thing. But I do think that, you know, it benefits other people. If I can talk about it, then, you know, it'll you know, it's not a taboo subject. It's a part of what many human beings go through. So it's quite common, actually, more common than we know. And I think the thing is, when we can get to that place and kind of just be real with ourselves, then that, for me anyway, it shows a level of, I'm not judging myself anymore. I've kind of gone, okay, I went through that. That was the past. That was even 5 minutes ago. It's gone. Now what do I do about it? Let's you know, we can assess this now rather than kind of just sit in it. And it's for me, I don't want it to be a secret. This is kind of what I've gone through. Certainly there's always going to be some things you're going to keep to yourself anyway, you know, and you don't have to be an open book about everything. But I think if you can share those problems with someone, it's, you know, they say, you know, a burden shared is a burden half lessened or something like that. I'm sure I screwed that up.
Either that or you've just made a new one up.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. But I think, you know, you said something about community, and I think that's a really, really important point. Whether it's an online community, whether it's one that you're connected with physically, you know, where you go and see people or whatever, there's a really, really important thing with community and getting in the right room. Like, you could stick around a whole bunch of people that you know that you kind of go, don't really aspire to be like them, but I'm stuck with them, and you might spend most of your time with them, and we know we become the five people we hang around with. So if you aspire to kind of get out of whatever you're in, you don't even have to do it physically, but in terms of where your mindset's at, if you're connected with people that are in a better place or people you can talk to, that is a fantastic thing. You need to foster that kind of community. And they always say, be in the right room. So if you're in the room that's kind of dragging you down, find the one that's going to lift you up, Yeah.
It's funny. I learnt a word only, I'd probably say it was only about a month ago, and it's called an ambivert. Have you heard of what an ambivert is?
I've heard it, but I can't recall what it is now.
So I'll Google this while I talk, but to get the right definition. But an ambivert is an introvert that likes people.
Oh, yes.
Let me just bring this up. So an ambivert is a person who has a balance of extrovert and introvert features in their personality, which is weird. I don't know. I just thought it might have been one or the other, but I for the longest time.
I understand that actually.
Yeah, I for the longest time, and I think most males as well are more introvert at the start. And that goes with a lot of things. I think it might come down to, the stereotype of being the provider, of being the hunter gatherer, being the answer to the entire family, and so whenever there's a problem, as a male, we're like, yeah, we got this. We'll sort it out. You don't need to call the plumber to fix the tap because I'll do it myself, or I don't need to send my car to get service because I know what to do. So as a male, you like to think that we're quite resourceful and we can do everything. And so that really means kind of just being almost introverted in a way. And, whenever you go out, sure, the majority of males that go out with their partners, they'd rather be at home watching sports, drinking a beer, playing video games, that sort of stuff. So, learning to become more of a, because I always thought it was just introvert, extrovert until I heard of this word ambivert. So actually, being a bit more conscious of being around people really changed me a lot. I don't know if we've actually spoken about this before, but I'm really into numerology. And have been so for about 7 or 8 years, and being an introvert for as long as I can remember. Introvert more so in terms of just doing things. Like I like people, I like hanging around people. It's cool, but given the choice of things to do, I kind of like my own company. I'll go for a drive, I'll go for a walk, I'll go for a run. But a lot of that is all me time. A lot of it's quite selfish. So I've always been like that. And so numerology is the study of numbers, and it's a way to predict what the energy is of any particular day, any particular year, any particular month. Similar to astrology, but it uses things like your birth date, the letters in your name as it pertains to your birth certificate. And for me, I found it accurate. So it's up to you if you believe it or not. Works for me, so I run with it. And last year for me, it's called a personal year. So my 2024 personal year was the one. And the definition of a one personal year is it's all about me. Everything is selfish. I should make decisions based on myself, and I should keep myself happy. And I'm like, oh, one person year, that's me all over. I'm gonna love it. And it started off pretty good. And towards mid that year, I made the decision to become an employee, which is the total opposite of being a one, because I'm now going, well, I have complete control over my working life as a small business owner, but now I'm going to become an employee. So it's almost the opposite of one. I'm putting, my career in somebody else's hands. And it actually was okay for the first couple of months. Towards the 9th month, it was totally not the thing that I wanted. And subsequently, I'm no longer an employee, and that was sort of the end of last year. But what it did teach me was that what I really wanted was to basically be on my own. That the one personal year, you got tested, and at the end, it's like, you know what? That's it. You have to be on your own. You have to be your own boss, which is great. So fast forward to 2025, and it's a 2 personal year, which means that I have to work around others. And there was a specific line there that said collaboration is key and success comes through working with others, which for me is like, this is nuts. Like, no, I want to do things on my own. I can do this. I can service my car. I can fix those taps. I can change that light. And I tried it at the start, and I made progress, but it was like snail's pace. It was excruciating, and it was frustrating, and it was like I should be much further than what I am now.
Yeah.
And so I kind of lent into it, and I said, okay, I'm gonna ask for help. And I asked a couple of people to keep me accountable. Asked a couple of more people their advice and if they could do things for me. And come mid-year, I've probably asked a dozen people to give me a hand with things.
Yeah.
They've all said yes, and I'm kind of now addicted to like asking people to give me help. Like, look, I'm talking to you now, right? Like this is another kind of sign of asking a person for help and to do something together. And I'm so enjoying it that it's like the progress that I've made in the past 6 months. There's no way I could have done this on my own. I probably could have, but it would probably take 5 times the amount of time. And that's if I had stuck with it. If I had done this on my own, chances are I would have quit, because it's like, this isn't the progress that I was after. I'm too slow. I don't know how to do this. This is frustrating. I don't want to have to pay money. And so now, for me, community is everything now. Like I've got people that are helping me, and in turn I'm helping them. And any kind of negative thought that comes to my head, either in the mornings or at nights, getting back to the original topic, it's something I'm now super happy to workshop with people. I could to the point where I could get up and then someone will post something in a group, and I just say, hey, I woke up pretty shitty this morning. And they're like, what happened? It's like, well, I don't know. Let me have a think about it. It's like, well, last night this happened, and some things in the world are causing me to kind of stress a little bit. And they go, well, let's talk about it. Let's see if we can, just put it to rest, or put your mind at ease. Yeah. And in the space of 30 to 60 minutes of waking up, those negative feelings that I could potentially have brought through the day are now gone. Yeah. So even though I still confess to be an introvert as such, I like the word ambivert, because I'm definitely not an extrovert. I don't know, but what we're doing now is kind of almost extroverty. So I think I'm gonna hang with the word ambivert now.
100%. Yeah. That's a great word, actually, and I do remember now where I heard that, because I'm crazy about doing all of these. What do you call them now? You do these tests for your personality tests.
Yes.
Sorry,
yep.
I got a blank, but yes, I've done it. So many of them, and certainly numerology is something that I don't follow it a lot, but there's a little bit I know about it that kind of is about my life more than anything, I guess. So I guess I need to know what I need to know. And my life path is 5, and the whole thing is about freedom. And that's kind of been like a theme throughout my whole life anyway. So I thought, well, maybe it's about time you kind of change things and start kind of living that way, and start putting things in place. But it's not just freedom for the sake of freedom. It's freedom through discipline. So what that means is there are certain things. I can be very, very lazy, because I just love to kind of, I'll go and do that. I'll go and do that. I'm so distracted. But what that tells me is, with my life path number, is I will only get freedom through disciplining myself and putting things in place that will create that freedom. And so that's a really good thing to know, because it's something that, brings back to this message, I guess, a core message where you kind of go, okay, yes, that's kind of something I have to keep at the forefront of things that I do, and but anyway, there was something you had said, and I can't remember what it is now. I've kind of lost my place, but that's okay. Coming back to things like community, how we said, certainly you need to have people in your corner to kind of keep you on track, especially if you feel like you're lost. These are people that can give you pointers to point you in the right direction, especially if they're in a place that you would like to go, There was a thought I had. It's going to seem random, but but I remember a long time ago when I was going through some difficulty. Do you remember? Did you go to high school or a tech, or what
Yep.
kind of? Yep.
It's the secondary college.
Yeah, and
Public school.
Public school? Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But you'd probably remember on your bag there would have probably been a logo somewhere. Do you remember there was a logo?
Yep.
And so there would have been some things on there, a particular motto. Sometimes it might have been in Latin. So I don't know why they do that, because it's not going to, not really, it's a mystery. I don't know what it means. But I used to always think that motto is for the school, and they want you to kind of exemplify that, to kind of carry that as this is what it means to be a part of this school and this community. And like I said, they put it in Latin, and no one knows what it means. But I used to also think, like I said, when I was going through my difficulty, what is the bag that I'm carrying now, and what does that motto say? Like, I'm not in school, but throughout my life, what's it say about me now? And it was probably saying, I hate my life, I'm depressed, blah blah blah, right? So that was what I was carrying at the time, and I thought, that's rubbish, that's crap, who wants to carry that around? And so I began thinking about this thing, and I thought, what does your life want to exemplify? What do you want to have as a message? That might not be the message every day, but it's something that you can come back to, that you can kind of aim to. And so this is one, I guess the life number makes sense to me, but it's kind of that thing of having that life of freedom, helping other people, being a good person, all of those sort of things. And so if you can put it into a sentence and then kind of keep that as your kind of life motto to go forward, it gives you something like a North Star to kind of aim for. Now, I do remember what it was I was going to say.
Very good. Okay.
It was the thing about the ambivert. So when I went and did these tests, one of them, which was a wealth dynamics test, which is amazing, and it's got from memory, what was it? I think it's eight different kind of personalities. And what it does is each personality is showing you how you create your wealth in the world. Like you might see some people that are personalities, they're what you call a star, someone like an Oprah Winfrey, someone that's a creator, which is the profile I carry, which is someone like a Steve Jobs. And then you've got someone that's a mechanic, that is someone like Henry Ford. They're the ones that are all involved in creating systems and things like that. So the interesting thing is, I was or am a creator profile, but I've got a little bit of star and a little bit of the mechanical side as well, which means they call it wings. So it means it was interesting because I've always thought I'm introverted, and introverted used to mean you're shy. Ever since I was young, my mum would say, "Oh, Shane's a shy boy," hides behind the chair when people come into the house, that sort of thing. But what I gained to know what introverted was and what extroverted was, it was interesting because what they say about introverts is you get your energy from being by yourself and introverting, introspecting, thinking about things, and kind of you get your energy that way. Extroverted people get their energy from being around other people. They get, draw energy off other people and the limelight, I guess. And the interesting thing is when I did these profile tests, they showed me that I had just a little bit more introversion, but like 48% extrovert and 52% introvert. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Because when I was doing my sales roles, I did them, but and I enjoyed talking to people and meeting them, helping them, but I didn't enjoy the sales part of it. But the introversion part is the part about thinking about ideas and creating stuff, and meditating, all of that, and I thought that's really interesting. So those profiling tests, they're a very interesting kind of snapshot of where you are in life, and I've taken them over time, and usually there's a underlining theme, regardless of whether you take it when you're 10 and when you're 40 or 50. There's kind of like, it doesn't change too much, and I found that really, really interesting.
Yeah. That's probably one of the better definitions of introvert that I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's being able to source, not so much being able to source, but the source of your energy is internal. Like
Yeah.
that pretty much sums me up to a T. Like I think that I do all that sort of stuff. I do a lot of stuff that benefits me in a way that keeps me energized and excited and fun and happy. Like, my wife says to me all the time, and my kids see this all. They pick on me about this. Is I like to entertain myself. Like, I love memes, and I share them when I remember, but I keep them for me, and I keep the collection for me, and I'll go through them. If I'm feeling like I need a laugh, I'll just go through them and I'll make myself laugh.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Why are you laughing at yourself?" I said, "I don't know. It feels good, and I can do it. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel compelled to share. Like, sure, I'll share the odd meme,
Yeah.
but more often than not, like, I do that to energize myself.
Yeah.
But then with that, once I am energized, and once I am, in a capacity to then share, fine, I do that. But generally speaking, and to not sound selfish, but that's just how I've always been. I love people, I love my family, but if I'm needing to, if I need to pick up in some way, if I'm, say, emotionally down or physically down or spiritually down, like, I'll always default to going first. And 99.9% of the time, I can kind of get my way out of it, because that's how I've lived my life, is always been internal. Having said that, the 0.01% or 0.1%, sure, I'll need to reach out to others. But no, that definition of introvert is like, it suits me to a T.
Yeah.
It's funny. What you brought something up, which I've never thought. I've done so much. I've done so much, and I think you've done the same. I've done so much personal development and self-healing, and just picking on myself and just seeing what makes me tick. That I've never actually thought of having a motto. You talk about the bag. If someone said to me, if you had a school bag and it was your motto, what would you have on it? Yeah. I'd have no idea. I've never actually thought of that. It's funny. I think I'm made a bit more aware of this now, because I just was listening to you talk, and I've heard other people talk as well. But, and this will be a question that I reckon will stick with you for a while. I'm laughing. See, I'm laughing at myself because I know the question. I love how people have the ability to quote sayings from either their mum or their dad or their friend. Oh, my mum always said this. And so if you flip it around, I don't have a saying. Like, I want my kids to say, you know what, Dad always said this.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is that I would say to them that would actually make them stick in their minds. Or maybe
Have
I
you
already
asked them?
have. Maybe I already have said something,
Yep.
but it's just what they've decided to remember that I always say. You know, it's
Yep.
funny. It's a weird thing, but
That's
I can't
interesting.
think. Yeah, I can't think of anything that I say with enough regularity that my kids at some point will grow up. You
Yeah.
know, they won't. They probably won't tell you because they probably don't even know themselves. But they might tell one of their friends. You know, just during dinner sometime. You know, what, my dad used to always say this,
Yeah.
and it's like whatever that this is what
Yeah.
I preach unknowingly. You know, without me saying to them, "Hey, kids, listen, this is what you should remember."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, having done all of this kind of self work, there's not one thing that I could say is what I would write because
Yeah.
I know there's so many things that I need to work on about myself. You know, there's not one covering statement.
Yeah.
Actually, if there is, it would probably be something about. Actually, you know what? It would almost be something like "Don't worry, be happy." Like that would
Yeah.
probably be
That's brilliant.
the one thing that I could be like, yeah, I could live with that
Yeah.
because everything for me revolves around happiness and fun.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't taken as many personality tests as you. I have taken some, and I took one recently in a coaching course,
Yeah.
and the things that I valued the most were basically fun. It was like fun and learning and enjoyment and everything for me kind of revolved around that. You know, as long as whatever it was led to that outcome.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't something specific. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I had to drive a car in the hills and that equals fun. Like I could find fun just journaling or
Yeah.
meditating. I could find that fun. I find running fun, which most people don't, but just certain things that, you know, lead me to be like, I'm enjoying that and it makes me happy. Therefore, it goes down the fun path. And so, you know, when you were talking about that Latin logo, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have.
Yeah.
But now that I think about it, it probably would be something along the lines of "Don't worry, be happy."
Fantastic. I mean, that's a brilliant one to carry. And I guess the whole thing is, do we live our motto as well? Is it something we're striving for, or is it one that we're actually living? And that's one I try and keep my awareness on.
Yep.
And not in a serious way, but in terms of, am I carrying that baggage that I did back then? Like
Mm.
life is heavy, and I don't want it to be like this. I don't love my life and all of that sort of thing. I don't want that motto back. You can keep that bag.
Mm.
I'll keep this one. Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that, yeah, I think for me, you know, those sorts of mottos are they're a fallback. At least they are
mm,
for me in terms of, again, that sort of Tasmanian devil rushing through everything and getting to a point of despair and frustration. Then it's that fallback. It's
mm,
that "don't worry, be happy" kind of thing. And it's like, oh,
yeah,
yeah, that's right. You
yeah,
know, because as much as we'd like to think that, or at least again for me, I'm just answering for me, but as much as I like to think I would live my life to a motto, it's just simply not the case. I
mm,
can't. It's impossible. Um, there's too much going on, and I think that secretly I do love that chaos.
yep,
You know, life is quite chaotic, and if everything in life was easy and everything was done for you, I think it would be kind of boring.
yep,
Um, and so having chaos is fun, and so I do enjoy uh, getting to a point where I'm tested. I think I've done enough personal development to realize that, you know, all of the things that you kind of struggle through, it's just another feather in your cap. It kind of pushes the boundaries out a little bit further to be like, okay, well, I used to stress here, but I've dealt with that stress for a while now, so my stress point is a bit further down.
yeah,
And if it all comes, if it all gets too much, then I just fall back to don't worry, be happy,
Yeah.
and then sort of
Yeah.
continue working from there.
Well, like you said, you find fun in the chaos anyway, so that's the thing, it's not like we don't go through difficulty, we don't go through struggles and all of that sort of thing, but do we live there? And that's what I mean. Like, when I was going through my dark time, that's where I lived. And so so even though I might have enjoyed some times, loved doing this, and it was brief. So the whole idea was to flip that on its head. So you don't spend much time in the dark times, and you spend most of your time, living from, like you find the fun in things. So it seems like really that is the theme that you carry, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in hindsight, I hope that's what my kids think of me. Maybe.
I think the interesting thing, you haven't asked them, I guess. And,
no, I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't.
The thing is, my kids are quite a bit older than yours, and I don't even need to ask them. They rib me all the time, and I go, "Oh my God, you're kidding!" This is something I might have said 20 or 30 years ago, and well, not 30 years ago, about 25 years ago. But they still carry those little sayings or something. Yeah, I don't know all of them, but I know back. Long time ago, my thing used to be after work, I'd go and get a frozen Slurpee.
Okay.
That was my thing every day. And so anytime we go out somewhere, they go, "Dad, you want a Slurpee? You want a frozen?" Because I used to just call it a frozen. And so they'd say, "You want a frozen, Dad?" And I go, "Yeah, right."
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of those things where when we have our time again, if we had known this sort of information about our kids when, as parents, I wonder if we would have conducted ourselves differently. Like I think we know as parents that whatever we do in their presence is going to mold them in a particular way.
Yeah.
And you can even tell that to parents whose kids are days old. They'll understand it. But whether or not they choose to practice it or even have the capacity to practice it because everything is happening all at once.
Yes.
You know.
100%. Yeah. I think, by the time we're 20 or in our early 30s having kids, by that time we're still young ourselves. We're still working stuff out, and so I didn't even know about self-development, didn't know anything about psychology by then, knew nothing, I was in my early 30s, I was a pretty ignorant person. I only knew what I knew. And so in the last, 20 odd years, I've learnt a lot. And certainly I would try to apply it differently. I think if we were taught these kind of things when we were at school, that would be the optimum time to know these things, because by the time we get into adulthood, already we've got a different framework to work from, whereas we don't, and our parents didn't. So as we go on, I guess we do the best we can. Our kids know a little bit better than what we did, and as it goes on, I guess. But I would love to see a future where this was done at school, in some capacity.
I don't let me get started about school.
That's another podcast.
Oh, I know. That could be the next one. We might have to do it on a different channel because, might not be so nice.
Yes.
Anyway, Shane, we're about to tick over the hour mark, so I think we should wrap this up. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we close?
I think we've said pretty much all there is to say about this subject. Yeah, but I would say, this all still comes back to awareness, and the whole idea of this is what kind of sentence, what kind of phrase am I carrying today? Am I in a negative state, a good state? Try and turn that around.
Perfect.
That's really what we want to say.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane. And from me, don't worry, be happy.
Awesome. Thanks, Dex.
Thanks.